Since the first season of Bridgerton, Cressida Cowper has been one of the characters that has caught the audience's attention. She seems to be the perfect antagonist needed in the story, a spoiled bully who, despite her efforts to stand out, has failed to capture the attention of any gentleman. In the current third season, Cressida has a special role in the plot that will undoubtedly put her even more in the spotlight of this story. But is this her real story? In this video, I will tell you the story of Cressida Cowper in the Bridgerton saga books. Cressida's first appearance was in the second book of the series, The Viscount Who Loved Me, which tells the love story between Anthony Bridgerton and Kate Sheffield. Cressida is described as a young woman of dazzling beauty. Tall, slim, with honey-colored hair and sparkling green eyes, she was so attractive to the gentleman that she could constantly be seen surrounded by a small swarm of admirers. In her second year as a debutante, which was in 1814, Cressida competed against Edwina as the reigning beauty of that season. However, unlike the aforementioned, who was a kind and generous girl, Cressida was considered a selfish witch with bad manners who enjoyed tormenting others. Although Cressida was publicly known for being a complete bully, she had a special fixation on Penelope, whom she enjoyed torturing since the girl had tripped over her in her first season, spilling punch on her dress and the suit of the Duke of Ashbourne, with whom Cressida had been chatting. She, of course, interpreted this in the worst way, blaming Penelope for her failure in trying to catch the Duke, although it was known in society that he was a man averse to marriage. Cressida was extremely popular in many of London's social circles, even considered a leader, which usually intimidated others, so no one dared to confront her or even defend her victims, except for the Bridgertons, who used to come to Penelope's aid whenever she decided to sink her claws into her. Cressida also had a friend named Basil Grimston, who used to accompany her while she mocked Penelope, and whom Kate described as the male equivalent of Cressida: rude, superficial, and arrogant. Cressida's beauty undoubtedly won her more than one suitor, but for reasons not explained in the book, though we could say they are quite obvious, it was quite difficult for her to find a husband. By the 1817 season, it was rumored that she might marry Lord Cavender, a man who, although well-born, held no title or position in the aristocracy. By 1824, Cressida had gone from being a Cowper to being called Lady Twombly. At some point between 1814 and 1823, she had married Horace Twombly, a libertine and swindler who had managed to deceive all of London into believing he had money, who had died sometime after the wedding under circumstances unknown to us readers. Therefore, by 1824, Cressida was nothing more than a widow in a financial crisis, with faded beauty that was of little use to her for survival. And it was precisely for that reason that Cressida, during that season, decided to make a decision that could change her future. After several years in anonymity, Lady Danbury had decided it was time to unmask Lady Whistledown. Thus, she offered a reward of £1,000 to whoever revealed the identity of said author. Cressida then decided to publicly claim that she was Lady Whistledown to claim the money. But of course it was not easy for her. Lady Danbury, who was as astute, or perhaps even more as she appears in the series, did not believe her lie, and even asked Penelope if she thought Cressida was Lady Whistledown. The girl, terrified by the situation, mustered the courage she did not think she had, and confirmed that she also did not believe Cressida was the famous author. Cressida, furious, was about to lunge at Penelope, but remained as composed as she could be, and continued demanding the reward from Lady Danbury. The old lady then told her that she would only give it to her if she showed proof confirming her identity as Lady Whistledown. With few options, Cressida promised to provide the proof within 2 weeks. Of course, Cressida's lie was very unconvincing. She was a widow full of debts, and if she had really been Lady Whistledown, it is quite likely she would have had a small fortune saved from years of publishing her gossip sheet. Penelope, who was actually Lady Whistledown, was not willing to let Cressida take credit for her years of hard work as a writer, especially knowing all the suffering that girl had caused her by publicly mocking her appearance and making her cry for many nights. Thus, despite having announced her retirement as Lady Whistledown in her last publication, Penelope decided to take up her pen again and announce in a new edition of the gossip sheet that Cressida was not Lady Whistledown. This, logically, was a public humiliation for Cressida, but she did not give up. Shortly after, she managed to discover Lady Whistledown's true identity after realizing that Penelope had used the exact same phrase that she later wrote in Lady Whistledown's publication, where she was labeled a liar. By that time, Penelope was already married to Colin, and he was aware of her secret. Cressida then decided to visit her at her new home and tell her how she had discovered the truth. And, aware that Penelope must have amassed a small fortune selling Lady Whistledown's magazines, she decided to demand the hefty sum of £10,000 in exchange for her silence. Penelope did not have that amount of money. She barely reached $8,000, but Cressida knew she could reach that figure using Colin's money, who, although not the Viscount, did have money from his family inheritance. She then gave her a week to gather the money. Penelope, however, was not willing to give her a single pound. She was too smart to know that Cressida would not be satisfied with that sum of money and would end up blackmailing her for life. Thus, she asked Colin for help, who decided to announce the truth himself, that his wife, Penelope Featherington, was Lady Whistledown. And Cressida could do nothing but complain, unable to prevent it from happening. After this character was not mentioned again in any of the following books, so we could assume that, from that night on, she went from being a widow without money to a fraud excluded from London society. And well, friends, this was the story of Cressida Cowper according to the books. A fairly short story, but I think it's quite interesting to know it now that we are watching the third season, where the most important events in this character's short history take place. Which other character from the Bridgerton saga would you like us to make a video about on the channel? Let me know in the comments. Remember that if you like this type of video, the best way to support me is by leaving a like, subscribing, and turning on the notification bell. See you in the next video.